Hello, and welcome to another podcast with yours truly. This is the Sweet Talking podcast with yours truly, Nefertiti, and I will be joined tonight by a individual who I just met very recently, named TwinklingJoiner, and otherwise will be going by Twink for the rest of the podcast. But thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here, Twink. Appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you inviting me to your podcast. And what I gotta say is, yo, what's up, my gang? Hey, yo! How's that blood creep going?
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. We're off to a fantastic start. So we'll be getting into our conversation for the duration of the podcast. But before we jump into that, I do want to just kind of give a little bit of a explanation for those of you who may be listening or watching for the first time. The Sweet Talking podcast is generally meant to provide a space for people to feel to express their ideas and their interests, and the things that may be troubling them or things that they may be going through in life that they may feel like those in VRChat may not feel comfortable talking about, because we are doing this interview in VRChat, and so it is ultimately a space where we're going to be talking about VRChat and all the things that go into being on this platform and those experiences that come along with it. Because for a lot of people, VRChat is very much a second life for many other people. It's home for a lot of people, actually. So, Twink, how you been?
Well, been alright, except for the minor confusion of AM and PM.
Well, I'm not holding that against you. There was a little mix up on when we were supposed to have the podcast. Twink thought it was going to be AM, and I just woken up. So yeah, that wasn't what's going to happen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up.
No, it's cool. But yeah.
Gotta love them cars.
Yes. So, with that in mind, we're here now, and we're gonna have a very pleasant conversation, I'm sure. And the thing is, I met you, I believe, it must have been maybe like a month ago where I first met you. I think it was, did I meet you in Two Time to Talk? Or was it there I think I met you? Maybe? I don't know. Do you remember where we met?
Honestly, I meet so many people, I just try to leave a good impact with a lot of people, because that's the most important thing, is to leave a good experience with somebody and move on. Because that's all people are going to remember. If you give them something good to remember you by, you tend to leave a bigger impact than when leaving some kind of scar in some kind of way. Whether it's tragic, or just being hurtful in some kind of way, not necessarily breaking someone physically or mentally, it leaves a far bigger impact, and that's always been my goal.
Great. I can definitely relate to that. That's honestly where that's been my motivation throughout my time in VRChat as well. So I can definitely agree with you there on that. But before we get into those experiences and meeting people and leaving people with a positive or sometimes a negative impact, whichever it may be, I'd really like for the audience to get to know who you are, and I'd love for you to share with us a little bit more about yourself. Who are you? How long have you been on VRChat? What do you like most about VRChat? And just what makes you unique? What helps you? What makes you stand out compared to others in VRChat?
Well, first things first. I guess I could use my real name, because why not? I got my own YouTube channel.
I mean, you don't have to, but it's totally up to you. I'm just gonna call you Twink.
It's my real name's Ember, Ember.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a martial artist. I do historical European martial art, HEMA for short, HEMA. And then I also do Japanese martial arts, if I can think, karate, jiu-jitsu, USA combat jiu-jitsu, and that's really about it. And I've been trying to develop my own kind of system from my experiences from my martial arts journey. I've been doing it for about 3, almost 4-ish years, and I've been slowly writing a book about not just my experiences but my theories on how combat works, which I mentioned in your last live stream that you did. And I gave you a little snippet of it. My book's just over there, but I don't plan on finishing it for about 10-ish years. So, yeah. I have ADHD and autism. My autism spectrum is Aspergers. So it's not easy for me to understand social cues as much.
Okay. Is that like can you share a little bit more about that, or is that kind of like the abridged version of it, of what that version of ADHD is?
So ADHD is hyperactive attention disorder. So I tend to be super hyperactive, high energy a lot of the time, and you can see if you look up ADHD memes, they sound very exaggerated, but it's actually true. We can have depression spikes, we can have happy spikes, sudden kind of mood swings, not in the sense of like mood swings. I can't think of the other psychological issue where it's constant extremes highs and extreme lows of opposite energy patterns. It's more so of mood swings of like, oh, I love that, immediately drops it and has a hyper fixation on something else. Basically stuff like that. People with ADHD and autism tend to go into what is called a little space because it's the most safest. And I found that out by coming across it from people that actually experienced that and know more about it, and they've sent me some stuff on it. Like, I find that pretty interesting, but it's far more common in people, like I said, that have autism and ADHD. I do see some tendencies in women to have little space syndrome, which is just acting kind of childlike. But ADHD and autism, you act far more like a child than the typical atypical brain does.
Okay. I understand.
Yeah, with my autism, it's actually very tough to try and do a lot of things, and I don't try to let it stop me. I try to actually use it as a superpower in the sense that because of my autism, I have a huge hyper fixation on certain things. Right now, it was science. Now it's history and martial arts, and martial arts history. So I have a huge hyperfixation on that, and I've been studying a lot on it and putting a lot of time and effort into it. But the kryptonite to my superpower, basically what you can say, is that I don't have the strongest of memory when it comes to mundane objects. So I have what would to a lot of people be a clutter, but it's a cluttery mess for me because I know where everything is right then and there. If anything's put off somewhere else, I can't find it. So what I have to do is I have to build routines in order for me to remember stuff. For instance, in the morning, which I forgot to take my medication. I gotta do that before I go to bed. But I have my medications right next to my bed, and then I have my keys and stuff. So when I get dressed for work, I grab my keys, I put them on, and I keep my pin up there for when I wash my clothes, because I have to carry a pin on me at all times when going into work, because they don't provide pins.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm washing my work clothes, I put my pin right next to my keys so I don't forget it. Some other people, what they have a tendency of doing is putting their keys, that if they have Aspergers like me, what they tend to do is they put their keys in the fridge with their food for their lunch in the morning, for the following day, so they don't forget their lunch.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So you're building sequences to ensure you're compensating for your memory by making it so that there are things that you absolutely 100% have to do, and to ensure that you don't forget other things, you bind those activities together with the thing that you absolutely cannot forget to do. Yeah, I think that's a good way a lot of people could use to improve the memory, not just people who go through what you go through. I think that could be a general like methodology that people can learn and do for themselves to make their ability to remember things a lot better. Because even like the ordinary like neurotypical person, I would say, forgets where they put their keys. You know. So I think that's a good way to really approach it, like in general.
But one of the biggest things that really sucks is when I go into, since I work at Pizza King, the only list that I get is a weekly cleaning schedule that has to be done by throughout the week, and it doesn't have to be all done in one day. When I go into my job, I don't know what the fuck to do all the time, 24/7. All I know is that I have to make pizzas for people. Other than that, I need to know what to do. Even though I've closed, I don't even know how many times now. I've been working there for a few months. I still don't know what to do half the time. Because I always feel like I'm going to be in the way, so I'm constantly asking, and I feel like I'm a burden because I'm constantly asking, hey, what can I do to help? And that just, it sucks, but it is what it is. I have to do what I can. And when I had to learn social cues, and I still barely even understand social cues, but I slowly picked up stuff like sarcasm, when people are joking, and when people are aggressive. But it's only when they're super aggressive and when is when I kind of pick up when they're actually upset or something like that. So it's a late social cue for me to understand, and people realize that I'm slightly off and will think I'm weird or so forth, and it sucks. One person I work with, he's like, well, I don't really think that people actually have ADHD or what have you, because a lot of people tend to self-diagnose themselves, which is true. A lot of people have a tendency of self-diagnosing ADHD or some form of autism, and they have no idea what they're talking about. But the thing is that he's like, I hate it when people try to use that to their advantage because they are at a disadvantage, and make excuses because of it. And it's like, I'm not making excuses. I literally cannot do the things that you expect me to do 24/7. I can't. I'm not an atypical brain. I'm a non-typical brain. I don't operate at that same level. In fact, one of my coworkers, which is also one of my dojo acquaintances, I wouldn't say a friend. He considers me as a friend, and I'm not trying to hurt him or anything like that. He's an alright dude. He's not an atypical brain. He was abused when he was younger. And he's been through a lot of trauma when he was a lot younger, and growing up, he doesn't see the things that an atypical person can see, and he'll say things that comes off in a creepy, pervy kind of way, and like a child predator, and he's not meaning anything like that at all. But that's just because he can't make that connection. He has a huge disconnect to his neural his neural pathway of thinking. He doesn't realize that he isn't an atypical person. But when I was really off-putted by him for a very long time, but until I really got to know him and who he was and how he operated, I kind of saw that, hey, he's definitely on the autism spectrum. I can't say how far, and I can't say how much of it is from trauma that is unhealed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, there are people of different neurotypes all over the place, and I do think it's important to just be aware that not everyone is like you, and people are different, and I think it's important to just be aware that, you know, there are people like yourself who really are trying to do their best. It seems like what you're doing your best to make do with what you have and the cards that you've been dealt, and it seems like you're really trying to make it work for you as something of a strength rather than something that you let hold you down. I think that's very, very admirable. I think that's important for people to really like follow and to do just in general. So you said you had one more thing that you wanted to bring up with regards to ADHD.
You typically have like a scattered brain, so you'll have like a thought process, and then bam, and it would be gone the next because something caught your attention. You've seen the movie Up, right?
I have not seen Up. I did hear it's very good though. I have not seen it though.
There's dogs in the movie, and I'm not gonna spoil too much on it, but
yeah.
The dogs can speak, and at moments when the dogs are speaking, they'll see a squirrel and they'll shout out "squirrel" and immediately look off into the other direction. That's what ADHD is like.
Yes.
It's uncontrollable.
Yeah, we had a guest last week. Well, you had a chance to hang out with James. He also has ADHD. So yeah, I mean, it just seems I'm drawn to non-neurotypical people, which is, you know, I think that's interesting. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on, because you seemed very, very interesting as an individual, and I thought we could have a really fascinating, broad conversation about a variety of things. And you've definitely educated me and many others on what it's like to have the Asperger's version of ADHD. It seems very, very trying, but you're definitely making the most of it for sure. So can you tell us a little bit about like how long have you been in VRChat, and what actually got you into VRChat to begin with?
I don't remember how long I've been on VRChat. Probably a year and a half. Who's counting the years? But
some people are.
My friend, he had the first quest when it came out, and I played some quest games, and he had VRChat, and he said, "You can go on there, but don't change the account, don't make a new account, don't do anything." I'm like, okay, because he couldn't remember any of his log information. So I went on there, and I went around doing stupid stuff, pretty much. I'd just join random lobbies, make a huge commotion, and I went to one of the quest lobbies, and there's just this diamond block, and I'm like, my cocaine, and started snorting it and stuff. I don't remember too much on it, but what you typically find
you were snorting
in a
cocaine.
public chaotic mess.
Of course, you want to remember because you were busy getting high. But yeah, go on.
But just normal public shenanigans that you would find in VRChat, and that's pretty much what kind of drawed me in to some extent, was watching content creators do that, and then also experiencing some things, because I knew that there were some other games on there on VRChat, so I'm like, I'll go try them out. Met some people, got involved with some social groups, and eventually I actually needed those social groups because I lost my IRL social groups. But then eventually I actually am now getting back involved with IRL social groups, because basically my old friend group, I got in a relationship with one of my friends and it didn't work out too well, so we all broke up pretty much. And
so your relationship with
we
the
moved on
girl, your relationship with I don't know if it was a girl or a guy, but the relationship with the person caused the entire friend group to break off?
No. It caused me and him to separate. And then he broke off from me, and then he broke off from the group. I tried to reconnect with the group, but there's just somewhat, I feel like, an awkward, not to me because I can't really tell, but how I kind of figured out is the fact that they don't really communicate to me, my other two friends. So I think that there's some awkward tension. I feel that there's awkward tension between the three of us. So it's one of those things. It's like I gotta move on, you know. Learn from this mistake. And that's what I've been doing. It was a hard thing to move on from. It took months because I knew this person since 6th grade, and we've been together for 6 years. And he had feelings for me, and I didn't exactly have feelings. I did at one point, but they went away, and I didn't exactly have feelings for him. But I'm like, I'll give it a shot, see where it goes. And yeah.
So 6 years of not really having feelings for someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so we knew each other for 6 years. We had we had an actual relationship for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Like,
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because we were friends for 6 years. We got into a relationship for 2 weeks. Two of my friends that was in the friend group, one of them I considered a sister because I knew her since 1st grade. We were born on the same day. I'm only older by a few hours. She was born in the same hospital a few rooms down.
Wow. That's very specific information. I don't know that much information about any of my friends, but that's interesting that you know that much about them. Seems like you were very close.
Very, very close.
So that's weird that 2 week, I guess, fling or experiment. I don't know how you would categorize it, but that 2 week experience.
I would say fling.
Fling, okay. But it's strange that you have all that history and then that short-lived experience would cause everything to just fall apart.
I went through a very tough time for a few months. I ended up saving up money because I knew the Quest 2 was coming out, and I'm like, why not get the Quest 2 because I want to play some VR games and hook it up. And I had my PC at the time, so I'm like, I could hook it up to my PC too. Found out my PC's not strong enough for VR.
Yeah.
But so I'm like, hey, there's this free application. I don't have a whole lot of money, so I'm not gonna buy another app. I'm just gonna try out this free application, VRChat. So I play it and meet people, get into a social group that kept me going for some time and kept chugging through the tough time. Even not a lot of them knew that. Eventually I come along to another relationship. Guy was an antisocial person, more so on the spectrum of serial killer.
Oh, that's lovely.
Well, sociopath. I take that back. Sociopath.
Okay.
He he had tendencies of not showing remorse when it came to stuff. So he'd be not blunt, but brutal about a lot of things. He's like, why are you on VRChat if you're gonna cry? Just get off and handle your problem. And it'd be very, very brutal, kind of harsh statements, and whatnot. And some, one of my friends was saying that, he shouldn't be saying stuff like that. I'm like, he can't understand remorse. It's not his fault. But, he ghosted me. Come to find out, he was dating someone, for 2 months, and we were dating for a month.
How nice.
Literally a week after he ghosted me, found out that he was dating somebody for 2 months. So it's like, I don't hold it against him, but it's like, I
feel
told
like
you
you
I was
should.
fine with.
I mean, it would kind of be
I
a
told
waste
him
of time to hold it against someone, but I mean, that's still quite fucked up.
I don't hold it against anybody. It is what it is.
But I mean, at least you recognize
People-
it for what it is, though, right? It was not a very healthy relationship, it seems like.
Not entirely, no. But, if I can think, okay. But basically...
A little bit closer. Okay.
There.
Yeah.
That's But, what was I saying?
So you're in VRChat,
Right.
to, build up new relationships.
Yeah, eventually, I ran into some, other people that, actually, well, this relationship got me into, sign language. So I became a selective mute, and I forced myself to be mute, so I can learn, sign language and focus a lot on sign language. Be able to read it and be able to speak it, pretty much. But that wasn't the only reason. It was also the fact that, because of having gender dysphoria, my voice kind of did, I just wasn't super comfortable with my voice, because I knew at the time that I was trans, but I was slowly coming out at the time. So I mostly just used female avatars because that's how I identify, and that's what I like about VRChat. I can use a female avatar and be addressed as a female, not have to worry about a lot of other things. Compared to the real world, I mean, I can get away with looking like a female because I have a lot of feminine features, which we've already talked about beforehand. Me being short, me having somewhat more of the pronounced female attributes, like somewhat of a bust, but not too much, so forth. Because people mistake me as a female when I have long hair, so it's like, yes, But as soon as I start speaking, then I get addressed as male. But compared to on VRChat, there's a lot more accepting people in the social space. But the internet is the internet, and you're always going to find those people that are going to be hateful and disrespectful and whatnot, and will just make jokes. Like, I've had, like, somebody was, when they found out about it, they're like, that person's a girl, that person's a girl, that person's a girl. I'm like, yeah, thank you for spreading the word. That's totally hurtful. It's like, you're not doing anything to spread hatred by saying that. Like, that does nothing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, but you'll find toxic people like that.
Yeah.
But
so, I mean, would you say that your experience in VRChat has allowed you to, combat your gender dysphoria by being able to encounter people who may be like yourself? or I guess how much of a role did VRChat play in you reaching to a point of acceptance with yourself, assuming that you certainly have, since you're sitting here speaking with me right now. So I guess to what degree would you say VRChat has helped you with that?
Yes, definitely with some social interactions, because I did have some form of anxiety because of it.
I don't blame you.
It took a lot of effort to actually start speaking to some of my friends, because they only knew me as a selective mute, and they've never heard me ever speak until I started speaking. And they kind of realized that, oh, hey, this person's a trans. We need to not treat them special in any kind of way, but they're coming out, so we at least need to give them, that respect, that space if they need it, that safe space, especially. And I've got to learn quite a bit about myself and about my friends, and we grew, and I would say that we got quite a bit of social interactions and somewhat of a family, family in quotes. But it definitely is it's a strong bond, and I remember how alive everything was not that long ago, a few months ago. There's a lot of us on VR that would get on every other night. I looked forward to getting on every night after work.
Yeah.
Be on for a few hours and then go to sleep, get up in the morning for school, then get home, go into work, then come home, get on VR, because I didn't really have too much of anything to really look forward to, because there's nobody that lived around me that I was friends with, because I was always that weird, awkward person that people liked me, but liked me because, oh, I can get that person to do stupid shit kind of thing. Because the school knew me for good things, definitely. Bad things, no. They mostly knew me for situations like I'm trying to remember. I used to do this thing called ragdolling, where someone random, when they ask me to ragdoll, they'll just shout out and be like, ragdoll, and I just collapse like a ragdoll, like ragdoll physics in video games.
So you were
people knew me for stuff like that.
So you were like the clown.
Kinda, yeah. People knew me for that stuff. But some people, especially like younger grade levels, they made fun of me for being who I was, because of being a non-atypical being a non-typical brain, being an atypical brain. I never saw a lot of I never saw the awkwardness in a lot of the things that I would do, and then there are certain things that would make me anxious socially.
So for the sake of interesting conversation, I'll just go ahead and say it. I'm also trans, so I have a pretty good sense of what you're going through in terms of gender dysphoria, the anxiousness that comes with being around people in real life, the joy of being identified as a woman, those little wins that you can get every so often. I've largely kind of graduated from all of those yay, oh, someone saw me as a woman, because I'm kind of already I've been living as a trans woman for about, I believe it's going to be 9 years, as of next month. So I've been doing this for quite some time. So, could you explain? Well, obviously I could talk about it, but I would like to hear from your perspective. if you're willing to talk about it, like what is, for people who may be unfamiliar, what was gender dysphoria like for you, and how did you get to a point of self-acceptance so that you felt more confident in yourself to, you know, be who you are?
It's definitely tough to kind of really answer that, because every time when people ask me that, it's like, it's not really simple, because
Of course, yeah.
I don't really I don't have the full grasp of it. I just only understand what atypical people understand. I don't understand myself all too much. No one
Okay.
will ever understand themselves all too much. That's just the truth.
Mm.
But my experience was going from me being I thought, well, I didn't really have too much of an attraction towards people, and I knew that had stemmed from my ADHD, but we didn't find out that I was autistic until sometime after, probably when I was about 16, 17. But after we found out that I was autistic, I also started to learn that I was bisexual, and then I started having more preferences towards guys. And then I started, what I started to do is, in my off time, when nobody was home, I'd actually go into my sister's closet, put on her clothes, take pictures of myself, and send it to some people that I knew, but from Discord and stuff, and to get their, and I would tell them that, yeah, you know, I'm a biological female, and kind of trap. I used to do trapping, and I used to think that I was either a trapper, a femboy, until sometime later when I found out gender dysphoria and what it was. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna play around with my pronouns, and which this whole process took years, because I was constantly back and forth on it, because I was in the mindset of, it's nothing to really worry about, let's move on, and I would move on to other stuff, and then maybe once every few months it would be brought back up, because of when I would look in the mirror, I'd be like, I don't feel like I'm born the right gender, well, sex.
It would be gender.
Because I've had those
that
moments.
That would be the term.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure what term to really use, because I know gender is the identity and sex is the biology.
Yeah, I would say, well, gender is associated with sex. So I suppose in that situation you could say that you don't feel as though you were born the right sex. But in terms of, you know, transitioning and all that, gender would be, your gender identity is what changed, not your sex. So it just creating that distinction. But yeah, you can go on.
Yeah. But it took some time to really kind of play around with it, because eventually when I did find this new social group, which was through a karate tournament, surprisingly enough, one of my friends I met knew HEMA, and I was studying that. We exchanged phone numbers, and we kind of hooked up after that, and literally the one time he came to pick me up and drove me to his place, I started opening up about my personality, who I was, what I do, stuff like that, and he's like, shit, you know, I was not expecting a whole bomb worth of shit. Like, yeah, I'm pretty open when it comes to a lot of stuff. I've learned that, you know, it's relatively normal sexuality and stuff like that. We should be open and talk about that stuff, so we can address a lot of issues in society and so forth. And later on, down the line, I started wearing more female clothes, especially around them, because I felt safe around them, because I was worried about, you know, someone coming out and beating the shit out of me for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I started going out in female clothes with them around, the less and less I started caring, and the more I realized that no one really cares all that much. You're really just gonna get an off look at times if they know or they can tell, which it's hard for people to really tell unless I'm wearing really tight shirts.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't really have like a masculine build. I have a female masculine build, if that's the right way of saying it. I have the female
You're very
tone,
lean.
but I have I look like a lean female.
Mm-hmm.
And I try not to look super masculine because my goal is to look far more feminine than masculine.
Yeah, I would I would assume that like if you've come to the conclusion that you are transgender, the goal would be to lean into the gender that you are looking to identify as. So that would be the goal, I would hope. Yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually I kind of got to self-acceptance in the sense of I am who I am. There's not much I can do to change it. There are things that I can do that can help, especially to be more easily integrated into society with the bottom surgery and hormones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm debating on bottom surgery because there is inherent issues with that, but I'm definitely going to go through with hormones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now my plan is to move up to my friends, because I actually live like an hour and a half away from them. So when I move there with them, that's when I plan on taking the hormones.
Gotcha. So you're currently not living in a space where it would be, I guess, comfortable or safe for you to start hormones now? Or do you just want to wait until you're with your friends?
Safe. Well, it is safe, but the problem is I'm also respecting my mom's wishes. Because my mom has schizophrenia. She's paranoid schizophrenic.
I see.
She's worried shitless over the fact that PTSD. It's the Child Protective Services,
Okay.
CPS, going down her throat. Even though I am 20, but we have siblings. I have 2 siblings in the house that are under the age of 18. One of my mom is friends with someone that I was an acquaintance with that was transgender. Well, their kid was transgender that I was an acquaintance with. He passed away because he was driving recklessly. So I didn't really get to talk too much about them, and I couldn't share my experiences and learn their experience from transitioning, which it sucks that I was robbed from that.
Mm-hmm.
Because where I'm from, this small community that I'm in, are not very accepting when it comes to that. It's mostly hillbilly redneck people. So they're not very accepting when it comes to that stuff. They're pretty close-minded, but yet somewhat open-minded. It's really weird.
Yeah. It's like they like what they like, and what they don't like is heresy.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird mindset that is here.
Okay.
What was I saying?
Well, I mean, if
I
you
don't
finish,
remember now.
it's okay. If you finish your thought, that's perfectly fine. So, how about I ask, at what point did you come to the conclusion that you were transgender and that was the only recourse for you to take? That's I may be projecting my own experience or with that question, but did you have a moment where it was just like, okay, this is what it has to be because it can be no other way? Did you have a moment like that, or was it just kind of like a gradual experience of like, okay, well, I'm with my friends and we're comfortable, and then everything is good, and and this seems to feel like natural? Was it just kind of like a just a social?
It was just a slow process.
Well,
It was a very slow process.
I would hope that it was slow and not like something you decided overnight. I would hope so.
Well, I to be honest, I don't really understand what you're asking then.
So let me try to reword it. Basically, like, I understand that it was a slow process, as it should be, but was there a point where it was just like, this is a decision that I'm making, and I need to move forward with this decision? Did you have like a moment of just like, okay, I've tried everything, and this is the only thing that I can do. This is the only way that I can be.
Yeah. I would say so, because I do kind of get upset when my mom doesn't address me the way that I wish to be addressed. But I also realize of what's going on with my mom's mindset.
That's important to recognize that. Yeah.
What I was trying to originally say. That person that did transition, they had CPS constantly called down their throat, and my mom's worried about that. That's what I was trying to get to.
Gotcha.
For me, when I told my mom was kind of shook by that, because usually people
are.
that well, my mom's like, you don't seem like the type of person that would be, and some people that I've told are like, that's not, they're kind of surprised, because it's like, I guess in their head they have the stereotypical feminine gay person that would be trans. And I feel that is the stereotype.
It is.
Because I'm a tomboy. I grew up around guys, so I did a lot more masculine things. I wrestled, I done all that stuff. I done what a typical boy does. My mom was the same way. My mom's a tomboy, so I never had a feminine role model. In fact, my mom was a single parent with me for a long time, so I never had really a feminine role model to look to. So I don't really care too much about makeup and stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, I will put on makeup every now and then, but the last time I put on makeup was like months ago. Like, I think last year. Like, it was a long time ago.
Well, makeup isn't necessary, but you know, I can understand the desire for it. I use makeup myself, but go on.
But how I kind of determined that, you know, this isn't really my choice, in the sense that being trans is not something you choose, it's something that you just are.
Correct.
How I came to that acceptance was the fact that, you know, not wanting to be called female and not wanting to really be called male, and getting into a social group and stuff into that area that does that, kind of made me realize that. Because, like I said, my mom, she used to call me by my preferred name and my preferred pronouns, but something changed to where she started reverting back, and I was kind of upset about it. But I'm like, whatever. And there's been times recently when I would go out with wearing female clothes, and she'd get upset about that and would get mad. And it's like, it's my life, let me do what I want, this is my choice, you know. I'm gonna suffer my consequences. You're not gonna suffer from the consequences that I'm gonna have. You're not gonna have to worry about it.
Yeah,
but
hopefully not. Yeah.
Well, because of her being paranoid schizophrenic,
she takes on a lot.
Yeah. she gets she gets a lot of paranoia from it. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait to do the hormones when I move with
Gotcha.
my friends.
Mm.
When I got into therapy for it, I'm still really questioning if my therapist is a decent therapist or not, because his mentality is somewhat reasonable but unreasonable at the same time, because he seems to be really pro on trans and stuff.
Yeah, that's actually a problem that's going around as of late. This I don't know why it's happening, but this desire and this fear to be accepting at all turns, that to the point where like professionals who are supposed to be able to guide a person to their own solution are now encouraging it, and that's not how you do therapy at all. So
Yeah.
I can understand where you're coming from. Like, thankfully I was kind of on the beginning of that. Like, I was fortunate to have a good therapist myself who wasn't like forcing me into making that decision. But yeah,
he's not forcing me into making the decision. He seems very pro active to an extent, in the sense of if you identify as female, you should do everything as a female. You shouldn't do certain things, like when it comes to sports, you shouldn't participate on the males team. You should participate as a females team. Which it's like
that's even more
Yeah.
problematic. I mean, and
That
from my point of
is-
view, but yeah.
Well, that is because because I got my hormone sheet, which I can actually just grab, which I'm sure you already know, and I can name off the entire things of what the hormones do and do not do.
Right. Mm-hmm. I've
Things
gotten
that
that
they
sheet
don't
before.
do. Yeah, the stuff that it does not do does not make it easy for you to compete in a cis female sports team. You shouldn't.
Absolutely not.
It's
completely unfair to
Yeah.
the women, to
'Cause-
the females. It's unfair to the females.
Yeah. Now there's definitely an argument we can't compete against cis males because we will have the decrease in strength, well, maximum strength capacity, and so forth. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, there are certain things that will happen for certain people. Like, they may say, like, yeah, it does make sense to have a lessening of muscular strength. However, it's different for everyone. Like, some people will grow more of a bust than others. Some will lose more of their strength than others. So, there's still a lot of research that needs to be done to kind of really make
definitely.
that, to really solidify how hormones actually affect an XY individual. So yeah, but I get what you're saying. I just want to, for those who may be unfamiliar, I'm just kind of throwing that in there. But yeah, like you're saying, it's just it doesn't make sense for you to be competing with females. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I shouldn't compete with on the male team because gendered identity, I'll be misidentified, and then also I probably won't be able to compete at the same level because of the hormones and so forth. It will affect me differently, yes, obviously. So I think a trans division would be beneficial. Some people are like, well, have an open division. Well, if we have an open division, then I'm just going to be dominated by the male. It's like, I can't... If we have an open division, that means that trans won't be able to have records like the male and like cis males and cis women have. They have world records.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we hold world records? That's not fair to us if we have an open division.
Yeah.
So by having a trans division, which they could just call it TS or TG trans girl, or TW trans woman, and
TM.
TS or whatever for trans guy. Yeah, TM for trans male.
Yeah. Oh I get yeah, I would say TG for trans guy. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Yeah,
whatever
would be.
Whatever it would be. And it's just an idea. But
exactly.
It gives, because the purpose of having two different divisions is for fairness and equality for the teams to compete.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's the purpose of it.
Mm-hmm.
So by having a trans division, it gives trans people the equal and fairness ability to compete against each other. Because recently there was a trans female that was on the it was like the
swim team
or whatever.
Leah Thomas.
Yeah. And she dominate the entire female division?
100% she did.
How is that
100%.
fair?
It's not fair, but
how is that fair?
It's this absolute pursuit of, like, the idea of equality has become so muddled that people are now ignoring actual science for the sake of equality. It's just it's
ridiculous.
Yes, 100% it is. It shouldn't be that way. It's quite obvious that there is a strength and endurance difference between XY and XX individual, regardless of what hormones you're taking. And the really interesting thing about Leah Thomas is that Leah was basically a no-name individual when Leah was on the male team, and then all of a sudden
on the male team, I remember that.
Yeah, so it's stuff like
I remember that being a talking point.
Right. So
yeah, because I started, when that popped up, I started really digging into the problem and started looking at a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what I found, what was really interesting, is that for a lot of the women's Olympic teams, for the cis women's teams, do not qualify for the males division. Their world records do not qualify the males teams
because they're longer because of genetic differences. So it takes women longer,
exactly,
but it's a shorter time for males. Yeah. That's
And people will sit there because I have seen people sit there and say this is sexist of me saying this.
It is not.
When in reality, it's not.
It's not.
Well, it's what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
Men, on average, are born to be stronger, fitter, faster, more athletic than a average female.
Correct. Just genetically speaking.
And people want to sit there and say that's sexist, but that's not. That's science. You can have exceptions.
You want to know who?
You will have exceptions.
Yeah, the people who are saying it's sexist are the trans allies who are saying it's sexist.
Which they're not. They're not trans allies. They're lying. It's falsehoods.
I know. I agree.
There is a so-called a trans person, and they're non-binary, and they're going by Xi Jim, some fucking weird ass pronouns, which is like whatever, pronouns.
Yeah, do you.
But it's the Canada situation with I can't remember the guy's name, but
Jordan Peterson.
The state was. Yes. The state was making it to where you have to enforce the
Bill C-16.
Sure.
Yeah, I've really looked into this.
They were trying to. It was bullshit.
It was.
It's like,
and he was right in denying it. Yeah. He was right in going against it.
It's like that's not equality. That's oppressive. What you do to make a so-called unified society is by taking away anything that's identifies with gender of any kind, or anything that has of any identification. You take that away, you strip it away, and you have uniformity, which is what the military does, because they strip away individuality and then they make you all just one unit.
Right.
Because that's how you operate.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you make a utilitarian government. You take away self-identity, and you just have uniformity. That uniformity. Pardon my pronunciations. I'm messing up some of the pronunciations. But that's how you control a populace.
Yeah, you force people.
That's what Hitler did.
Yeah, you force people to do one thing, and then if you don't do that thing, people can retaliate in law, legally retaliate against you if you don't abide by whatever law is in place. And to control people's speech, control what people say, and how they're supposed to acknowledge, there's this idea of you're supposed to talk to a trans person a certain way, and you know what that pervasive idea has caused? It's caused so many people who are genuinely want to be allies to trans people and genuinely want to know more about them and their experiences, to be afraid to even approach the topic. Like they're so afraid, as if they're being actually oppressed by the law to act and be a certain way. They're just afraid of being like reprimanded by whomever, because maybe they mistakenly misgender someone, maybe they mistakenly use someone's dead name, and they think, oh my god, what if I do that? So they just don't talk to us. They don't ask questions, and then they remain ignorant, and then they have to go with what everyone else has been saying, what the trans allies have been saying, and then they get even more afraid. And it's this idea of like people want to be supportive and they don't know how to, because they're so afraid.
Well, sometimes when they want to be supportive and then they see these so-called trans allies and they see how oppressive they're trying to be, they're like, fuck them, they're assholes, every single one of them need to die.
Yeah,
and they have that sense of mentality.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. Yeah, that makes people even more violent towards just the people who just want to live their lives, like you and me.
Like, yeah, look at BLM.
Black
Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. That whole movement has the situation that's happening with the trans community. The trans community is creating falsified enemies and falsified problems that don't even exist,
so they can stay relevant.
Yeah, it's like if you want to be relevant, tackle real problems. Stuff like the sports teams. Like, how do we actually create true fairness for the sports teams?
Mm-hmm.
By providing more money into sports so that we can have 2 other divisions for trans males and women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, like it seems so simple. It really does, but no one wants to acknowledge it, because if they acknowledge science, if they acknowledge biology and genes, they lose ground on so many other issues. They lose ground on so many other things that they're supposedly fighting, all the demons that they've created for themselves. Like the bathroom issue wasn't an issue until the trans community made it an issue. Like, everyone...
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
Like nobody knew about it until it got brought up. And when it got brought up, my real dad and his friend, which we consider him my uncle, basically they were saying they should have a separate bathroom. Trans people should have a separate bathroom, because their idea on what trans people were is that one day you could just identify as a trans person and be a
bearded weirdo who's just trying to peep in on females.
Well, not just that, but also trying to sexually assault women and children.
Yeah.
Pedophiles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was trying to think of that term.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's like, no.
That's not the typical experience at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because I would see memes of like people making fun of the entire LGBT community and stuff. I'll laugh at them because like, oh, some of them are funny because it's like, oh, it ain't true, and some of them can be somewhat hurtful, but it's like people also take themselves too seriously, and it's like you need to relax. Don't take yourself too seriously. If you take yourself too seriously, it's gonna create more problems than it is gonna solve.
Absolutely.
Make fun of yourself. I make fun of myself for being autistic when I go into work and stuff, and I do stuff and I mess up, and some of my coworkers start picking on me. It's like, well, I can't help it. I'm just what's called retarded.
Oh God. but see, that diffuses so many like issues that people like, worries, concerns that people legitimately have about like just having genuine conversations about these sorts of topics. But like when you have when you're just willing to make fun of yourself and not take yourself so seriously, it opens the door for people to learn and to be educated. And I've made it my personal business in other venues, not so much this podcast, but in other ways, to just make it so that people can feel okay with talking to me about like what it's been like to be trans, like how much of a issue it was to make this decision, how much it sucked, and how much no one should want to be trans. It's just like I can tell people these things because I open up the door. But so many people are like, if you use my they're so stuck on their own ego that they will use any opportunity to get angry and to lash out, and everything is an emotional reaction rather than an opportunity to just educate someone. And if people want to be assholes and misgender you and dead name you, that's their prerogative. They have the right to do that, but you also have the right to tell them to fuck off.
Yeah, so the thing is that argument is the freedom of speech, which
yes,
I will say, hey, this is my preferred name.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Pronouns,
for sure.
There's nothing I could do to force you to say them. Sometimes it happens, because I have been misgendered before. It happens.
Yeah, I've been misgendered in the past. Not so much recently, but yeah, like I have been, like way back when I first was trying to become a full version of myself. Yeah, but yeah, it will happen.
You have to tolerate it.
Yeah,
you have to tolerate it. Tolerance is very important.
Mm-hmm.
You learn that through school, because when you go through high school and you're just different for just a small minority of whatever it is, you're just different from liking for something else, you get made fun of. You learn tolerance. It's very important. To have that tolerance and to forgive and forget is very important. And that's the thing that a lot of our society has forgotten over time.
Absolutely.
Because one of the biggest things that I noticed that some trans people don't seem to realize when they come to that actualization of being trans. Yeah. Is the fact that they look like a biological male or woman.
Yes.
You're going to be misgendered because of that.
That's how
that's not your fault.
Yeah. It is how we grow, how we interface with that's how we've learned how to interface with people. That's how we've survived as a species for so many years. And it's just like you expect people to just ignore that all of a sudden.
It's pre-programmed into your brain to, when you hear a masculine voice, to say sir or
ma'am,
male, or what have you. And the same thing could be said with a female voice. You're pre-programmed to say ma'am, woman, so forth.
Mm-hmm. She.
when you see a feminine person, that even though that they're a guy and they are super passable as a female, you're going to misgender them as a female, even though they're a guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother, when he was, what, I think like 12, 13, like, I think sometime a little before he was a teenager, he had long hair because I had long hair.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the guy's bathroom, and this old lady went up to my sister and said, "Hey, your sister went into the guy's bathroom. You better go get her."
Mm-hmm.
And she told her, "No, that's my brother." And she's like,
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they proceed to explain he just has long hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the natural thing that, you know, all humans are. We're predisposed to draw those conclusions, and this idea that people are supposed to just automatically, obviously be tolerant and be open and understand that these things can happen, but to expect that people are just supposed to treat you a certain way or supposed to say something to you or supposed to use certain pronouns when in their minds that doesn't register as those sorts of ways, that expectation has really caused this emotionally charged society where there are no more conversations. There's only emotions. There's only anger. There's only frustration. And the majority of the emotions that are being shown in our society, especially mainly in Western society, I speak, you know, from someone who lives in the States, and you're also from the States. Like, it's just people here are just so emotionally charged, and the ability to just have very cordial conversations it's so difficult to just have those these days, and it's so sad.
It's few far in between, because I worked with a guy that was transphobic to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was slightly homophobic too.
Oh, fun.
Because
2 for 1.
But well, he wasn't. I think he was a non-atypical brain, but basically, when I would go into work, I would put on a scrunchie,
yeah.
Because I didn't have any regular hair ties. So and plus my sister gave me some, so I was like, you know,
why not?
it's kind of cute. Yeah. And a lot of people I worked with already knew that I was trans, so it's like, okay, whatever. And this guy was kind of new, and he was an alright worker, but I think he was all over the place. He wasn't just doing his job. He was doing like 6 other people's jobs when he didn't need to. Because everyone was already on top of their jobs and stuff. He just was kind of all over the place. So I don't think he was a normal person. I think he was a non-atypical brain.
Maybe OCD.
Probably.
Who knows?
He could have also just been on the autistic spectrum.
Yeah.
But one of the things is that he's like, because it's been about a few months since I've been working there with him. One day he brings up, "Hey, I noticed your scrunchie. I wanted to know, are you gay?" I'm like, "Yes, but technically no." And he's like, "What do you mean?" "Well, I'm trans." He's like, "Whoa, okay. I guess I wouldn't wear it if that's the case if I was gay." I'm like, "Well, that's not what's actually happening. That's not what a trans person is." And I explained to him how it works and stuff like that. And I kind of explained a little bit of the science that genes are not entirely predetermined in this. Well, genes is somewhat predetermined as soon as the egg kind of gets into the womb, but you know what I mean, the whole sex process.
Yeah, there is a basically you could just call it like I just use the terminology. It is a mental disorder. Like there's something that is deficient in the brain that causes that to occur within it should be a very small segment of people, and yeah.
Well, even in biology, there's also, because there's 4 chemicals, 2 of which determine male female, and the other 2 cancel out the other chemicals, and that whole process can be messed up. That causes hermaphrodites and those to be born without genitalia.
Yeah, very, very rare. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also conclude that also can cause gender dysphoria, non-binary, and gender fluid. I feel that it can cause that too, but I'm not 100% sure on it.
Yeah,
it's just a theory.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on that either. I don't know, like I don't know enough about that to really even talk about that. So yeah, we'll just kind of leave that there.
But yeah, I'm not a biologist specialist or anything like that. So
neither of us are. Yeah.
Just take what I say with a little bit of grain of salt, because with every truth there's a lie. With every lie there's a truth.
Yeah, we can draw our conclusions, but there's no like actual, like, you know, we know this to be true. It's just what we've connected the dots to be in our personal, like, and to form a theory. We connected the dots to form a theory, which may or may not be.
It's an educated
found.
It's an educated theory.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's just I explained some of that process, and I explained that it's actually relatively common for a lot of other animal species to have more than 2 sexes. Like frogs, they have like 4 sexes or something like that. Clownfish, they have the ability to actually transition to a different gender, different sex, if the colony needs it. And I explained that stuff, and I explained that it's kind of a mind process for us humans. It's just a somewhat of a like you said, that
mental disorder,
neurological issue.
Yeah, neurological issue. I mean, like, it's like, that's not a negative term. Like, I don't know why people feel like awkward about saying, like, it is something that is going on with the brain that causes that to occur, and it is a disorder because it is not typical. It is non-typical from the majority. So it's not a negative term. It's not something that I see as negative. It just is what it is. Like, that's what, you know.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I just don't know. After I explained everything, he's like, well, I don't know why can't guys just wear guy clothes and girls wear girl clothes? I'm like, they are. It's just more complicated than apparently you can understand.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah. That's just the person that's just not going to get it. If that was what they said after you explained everything, they're not capable of comprehending it. Yeah. Which, you know,
the guy was also born with a silver spoon in his mouth, so there's that too.
Oh, that's okay. Well, who knows? Who knows where it really boils down to in that regard? But yeah, I mean, you're gonna find people of all different kinds. But yeah, go ahead.
He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but when he turned a certain age, he had to get a job, and in order to get his inheritance from his parents, he ended up getting in jail a few different times, and then ended up having a kid of his own. And the kid I feel kind of bad about, because it's like, oh no, this kid's not gonna. They're gonna be somewhat closed-minded, and they're gonna be raised in what I would see as an improper way, because his parent is going to be closed-minded to gays and so forth. So
yeah,
the kid's going to be sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they find out that they're gay, they're going to be super homophobic and be super closeted until they eventually come out, which is going to take a very long time for them to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I feel that that very strong homophobia in the sense of going out of your way in every way possible to be just absolutely homophobic in every turn you have. You're secretly gay. You're just closeted gay. That isn't always true, but I feel
it's been
has
seen
some
to be,
merit.
having a previous traumatic experience or just not having an opportunity to explore those ideas can cause someone to hold animosity, which ultimately turns into themselves potentially being gay themselves. But there have been some cases of that occurring, but all of us don't know too much about that. But at the same time, like, we are familiar that it can happen for sure.
Yeah.
So let's jump to something else. Like, we've really exhausted. Like, I'm glad that we had a chance to really kind of dig into that and really have a good back and forth about that. Going back to VRChat, would you say that your experiences in VRChat have largely been positive, or well, I guess, how would you describe your experiences in VRChat? Would you say that they're mostly positive, mostly negative, and why would you categorize them that way?
Okay. This one's actually relatively easy. So VRChat will be a positive place for people once they get a social group and then they start going to Friends Plus, Friends, and private worlds. The reason for that is because public worlds will be usually filled with a lot of either people that will try to dox you, people that are child predators, people that will try to crash you, ruin your computers, ruin your headsets, etc. So there is positives and downsides. For the most part, when I'm going to Friends Plus, Friends, every now and then public worlds for like public games, it's been positive. But when I go to places in the public, like Black Cat and stuff, it's been mostly negative, where I'm constantly being berated by young kids that are under the age of 12 when they need to be at I don't remember what the age was. I think it was like 13.
Yeah, 13,
or something. 13, 14. Yeah. Because it's the internet. You're going to be exposed to a lot of shit, a lot of racism, a lot of homophobia, a lot of political opinions, and so forth. Stuff that's going to vary differently from other people, and a 13-year-old is going to have an idea of what the real world's like because they're going to be already somewhat pre-exposed to the internet,
right?
Compared to a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old, they're not really going to have too much of an idea of what the real world is, who they are, to move on from situations. They're gonna see that stuff. So I would say, if you want to get into it, go to a public world, like game worlds, find the people that you connect with to some degree, friend them, get to know them, go to Friend Plus world so you get to know their friends too, and so forth. And then you can get a huge list of 130 plus friends that you're never gonna see more than once.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's like that really is the downside to being very social and digging into and interacting with so many different people, and you friend all these people. Like, I would say that's I think we've become so used to, just in the interest of connecting with people and bringing them into the fold per se, that we friend many people, but then we never really have a chance to really formulate something meaningful, like a meaningful connection with them, because in the moment it was something really great, something really exciting, and of course, oh yeah, you're really awesome, let me friend you. But then where do you go from there? And I feel like that idea, that's something that social media has really kind of put into all of us, to think okay, if I'll have a friend here, I'll have a friend here, and then you rack up so many. But then there's no opportunity to really build something truly meaningful with those people. So like, do you have any like, how do you feel about that? Do you think that that's something that you struggle with? Do you think that's something that, you know, you're very good at, or do you like, you struggle with the whole idea like, oh yeah, I have all these friends on my list and I'm never gonna talk to most of them ever again?
So at first it was never really a big issue because I was really good at grouping up. I had 3 groups. I had my main group, I had my sign group, and then I had the OG group of people that I met when I was on PC. But it was relatively small. It never was more than 30-40 people in total. But eventually it started to rack up because when I started getting into some public worlds and meeting friends of friends and so forth, they started friending me, and I was always like, you know what, sure, I'll accept your friend request, because they would never go away if you hit X. Yeah, which now I'm appreciative that they fixed, and I'm actually slowly going through a small purge every now and then to purge a lot of people I've never met, well, that I haven't seen in a long time. What I definitely recommend when you get into VRChat is you will have the 3 group option to add friends to favorites. Name your favorites, your favorite groups to friends, quote-unquote family, because everyone will eventually get into a VR family, which is a decent social group that I think is very positive because they're relatively accepting people. And then maybe an activity group of friends, like a D&D group of friends or something like that, whatever you want the off group to be. And don't friend more than 50 people in total, because the mind can only process 100 people at a time. By the time that you reach the 30 thresh mark, the 30 mark of people, your brain already starts to forget who is who, only remember faces. So definitely keep small groups, and if you are planning on meeting other people, like I said, have your main group, whatever you want to name it, main group, family group, and then whatever you want this other group to be, just whatever, because you can't have more than, like, I think 25 in one group or something like that. I don't remember how many you can have in a favorited list.
Yeah. I mean, that to me that seems very logical. I've made a point to start grouping people early on. Like, I'm still very new to VRChat, so like I've just gotten the habit of putting people into certain groups and making sure that I'm doing my best to reach out to as many of them as possible. And speaking of that, like there are people that I've met in the past that I would like to see them again, but I can never be on it at the same time. How would you feel about having something along the lines of like an inbox system where you can send people messages and communicate with them whether they're online or offline, so that maybe you can like arrange something so that you can, connect with even more people that you're like, you never know when someone's going to be online or offline, and your schedules may never align despite you wanting to spend time with them. And that could actually lead to people thinking that, like, well, I'm just going to remove this person from my list because I never see them. So I guess, what are your thoughts on, I guess, a way that maybe that could be combated, so that, we don't miss out on those experiences with people?
You already do see it being somewhat combated to some extent, where people are putting their Discord in their bios and their statuses, so that people can just click on that person if they're gonna friend them. Oh, hey, I see their Discord. Let me add them on Discord so I can talk to them on Discord. You already see it being somewhat combated.
But I
what
mean,
you said previously,
isn't that dangerous though? Isn't like just adding someone randomly? Because like to me, if I see a person that I don't know friending me, I'm that much less inclined to decline it. Me personally, because like there's no way of knowing.
You know, that is somewhat of a point, because there has been situations when you go into public lobbies where you'll have kids or people that are wanting to get to known user or trusted user by friending you, which is like, that's not how you get it. You just have to have a lot of time in the game.
Yeah,
and you have to have a PC to get to known user and
I mean,
trusted
like,
user.
there is a point where you can friend people, and that can get you to like user, or like it can get you to user, like just the whole friending part. But anything beyond user, that's just time spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would kind of solve the. But usually those people that are sending out those friend requests and stuff don't really look at your bio and don't really care. They're just wanting to get that status to be known, which is like, you're not really known. Not a lot of people know you. There's like thousands of people using VRChat. Well, probably hundreds, but the point stands is that you're not really gonna see all these people again.
Right.
Like it's the internet. It's a social internet space. It's like the internet cafe. You're not really gonna see these people all that much. But having that inbox system will solve an issue that I really freaking hate a lot of the time. So when you request off of people, you have the text inbox. And people try to use that to communicate, but sometimes they accidentally accept an invite at times when they actually mean to send a message.
Yeah. That's happened to me. Yeah.
And on top of that, if I ask for a request off of you, you can only send a message to me. I can't send a message back without asking another invite.
Yeah.
It will solve that issue, because it's like, say for instance, I like, hey, can I join? You say, no, I'm streaming. And if maybe I'm curious, what are you streaming? I'm gonna ask, hey, what are you streaming? And you just tell me, I'm streaming this game, you know? Maybe I want to follow up. Or say for instance, hey, can I join you? No. Why can't I join you? You can't send why can't I join? You can't send something back without having to ask for another invite, and they won't respond back sometimes.
Right. Yeah, and that can lead to misunderstandings. People who are more emotionally vulnerable will take that as like, well, they must hate me now. I must have offended them in some way. And that can cause a lot of like misunderstandings, which could inadvertently affect people's your relationship with that person, which really, really sucks, because like, I worry about that all the time. Yeah. Especially since I'm a streamer, I worry about that all the time. And sometimes I just want to be in VRChat and I want to do something by myself, or I want to do something with someone else, and like people send me invites, and I don't want to be like, I don't just want to be like decline. I want to let them know, hey, thank you for the, like, I know you want to hang out, but I'm occupied with something else at the moment. You know? It's
just decline it. Just decline it.
But yeah, like I'm glad that you agree with me on that. I really wish that they would make that possible, so that like I think they're afraid of it being abused. But like you could even set
it can.
Yeah, you could even set that to a certain like limit. Like you could just make it so like you could only send, I don't know, like 5 messages an hour or something. Like,
well, what I would say is the text box probably no longer than 150 characters.
Oh yeah, they already do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's already integrated. But like the just sending messages to people or repeatedly can, like, that can definitely be abused.
Maybe they can only send it to friends.
Yeah, that would be the solution. Give people the option to make it that people who are not friends can send you messages, and then only friends can send you messages, or both. Just give people an option.
And OnlyFans.
And OnlyFans. I'm glad you remembered that one. Very nice. Well done. Well done. So yeah, go ahead.
I do have a very important question to ask you. What's your thoughts on hats?
No, that's a very general question. I don't wear hats. And actually, well, I will.
You don't wear hats?
I'll wear like a skull cap during winter. That's like the most that I'll do.
Okay.
Just a skull cap to cover my
That's cool.
ears, and keep my head warm, because I hate the cold.
What's the one thing that you hate about hats?
I don't really hate hats in general. I just don't wear them. I also don't leave my apartment very much. But like I prefer to just have my hair out, and once in a while, like maybe once in a while I'll wear a cap if I'm feeling kind of like I don't know, like I want to give like a different vibe. Like sometimes I'll wear like a cap or whatever, and like I'll have my hair coming out the back of it, and that's really it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable. See, the one thing that I really hate about hats is that they actually cause baldness, specifically male pattard baldness. But with the sponsor of this video,
damn it.
Keeps.
God damn it! Oh my gosh! I should have seen that coming.
That's a smooth segue. Smooth segue.
Oh my gosh! I should have seen that coming. That's. I'm not sponsored by Keeps. I'm not.
Keeps, sponsor her.
If you want to sponsor me, I have a Patreon. If you like, that would be great. Check out my Patreon. That's fantastic. But yeah, like I in all seriousness, like, let me. I have one more question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I guess how would you rate your general experience in VRChat? Like, I mean, like, I guess how would you rate VRChat as a platform, and what advice would you give to someone who is unfamiliar with VRChat, wants to learn more about it and wants to get into it? So I know you gave some thoughts about it earlier, but if you could, maybe if you have more to say on that, that would be great. But like, how would you rate on a scale of 1 to 10 VRChat as a platform, as a social experience, and what advice would you give to someone who is new or is curious about VRChat?
Well, my experience, what I would rate it, I've been coughing for a good second.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
So think, focus. Okay. What I would rate VRChat is that it's the internet. It's an internet social space.
1 to 10.
You're gonna meet people.
1 to 10.
You're. Oh. Well,
10 being the best thing in the world.
It's the internet. So what I guess I'm saying, I would say about a 5, because it's an internet social space. You're gonna meet good people, you're gonna meet bad people. You can have a great time, you can have a bad time. Just don't be afraid to try and find the good people because of the bad people. Just try and move forward to find the people that fit you, that's willing to communicate, be open, and accept you for who you are, Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing, especially for newcomers. Don't be afraid. If you have social anxiety, this is a decent place for that. You're gonna find people that
you can look into the
are gonna
camera,
be willing to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're gonna find people that are willing to talk to you and treat you with respect. And a lot of people with social anxiety have a tendency of being selective mutes and learn sign language, which I definitely recommend. will slowly get you into the ability to talk and communicate with other people. I actively want people to learn American Sign Language and VR American Sign Language. VR American Sign Language is a modified version of real life sign language, which I've been studying both. But the point is that it's a decent place for those to find social interactions that they can't find in a lot of other places. Say, for instance, toxic and abusive relationships, being at home and their parents not really giving them some form of attention. You can make bonds with other people. You can get that social group. You are socially awkward like I was in school. This gives you that opportunity to meet people that are somewhat just like you and willing to have some experiences and share experiences with you in this virtual space. It's definitely a decent platform. Like I said, I would give it a 5 because nothing's perfect. It's the internet after all. You're gonna have bad people. To some people it might seem like, oh, your rating should be an 8. Well, it's like, no, it's a 5 because there are a lot of bad sides too. Like I said, there's people that will dox you, there are people that will crash you, there's pedophiles, there is a lot of inherent issues on VRChat that needs to be addressed that isn't being addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm inclined to. Well, I mean, I would say that the way that you describe it is very, very accurate. I think it is important to realize that this is the internet. This, regardless of what VRChat can be as an experience, it's important to not forget that we're still on the internet, and you're gonna find people who want to, do harm to you. And I think you really sum things up really, really well. And I'm really, really grateful that you decided to take the time to spend time with me and have a conversation with me, Twink. It's been really, really cool.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate talking to you, and thank you for letting me be on your podcast and saying hi to an audience.
Yeah.
And so forth.
Yeah, and I haven't mentioned this before, but your avatar is very, very cute.
oh. Mamma mia, pizzeria.
So I have one last question to kind of leave things off on. Is there anything that I can improve on as a host? And is there anything that you personally liked about being on the podcast? So I guess constructive criticism, both positive and negative.
Yeah, constructive criticism, like I said, is a good thing. So what I was saying earlier is that what was I saying? Your intro, it's all right. It can definitely be improved, but give it time. You'll flesh it out. You'll make it you.
Totally fair.
And it will become a thing. I see a lot of potential out of you, and I see a lot of growth coming out of you in the near future. So I already see a lot of potential. I have personal experience from this because, like I said, I do YouTube. I've had 2 YouTube accounts. My first one was the Half-Life book. I lost access to that email account, or that Gmail account. So I made another one. But my first one, it had good quality, but it didn't have personality. I was very toned, like just very mellow. Like I just had one voice going through.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was kind of camera shy, and on top of that, I was also worried about my grandma barging into the room and saying, "Who are you talking to?" Because I did a lot of recording at my grandma's.
Right.
Over time, when I got to my other YouTube account, which is the same name that I'm using right now, I started developing a personality. I started developing a lot of that stuff, a lot of growth. There's not very much up there. I've been streaming a lot more because I find it fits my schedule right now, as of right now. But I'm waiting until I move to really get back into the groove of everything else.
Right.
And start getting back into the grind and whatnot, because I want to do it with some of my friends and stuff and work on other projects, because I don't want to just make gaming videos. I want to make my own personality kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're making what you want to make. That's what's important. The grind is gonna be tough. I would definitely recommend, which you're already doing, is having a lot of pre-recorded videos and then just start editing those and have them stockpiled.
Mm-hmm.
That is the key. Lots of water, because I have met Swagger Souls and I asked him for some advice. Lots of water, especially if you're talking and wanting to use your voice a lot. That's very important. You want to lubricate your voice. And just give it time. You'll grow, you'll develop into something special that people are going to find unique and amazing.
So is there anything I'm doing well right now?
Yeah, you're engaging in conversation with me. You're talking back and forth, which I really appreciate. And you also guide the conversation, because sometimes I do tend to ramble on because of my ADHD. I'm gonna keep rambling on about random shit. Keeping it guided to some extent is really helpful because you're gonna encounter people that are more like that need that guidance, that need to kind of be pushed a little forward.
Yeah.
To keep focused on a certain conversation, which is very helpful.
Cool. Great.
But like I said, just keep going. You're going to develop and be something special. I know. I see potential. It's gonna get tough. I know it will. It's gonna get hard. But if you keep at it, you can make it into something that people are going to enjoy. That's what's important.
Mm-hmm.
The impact that I made right here, right now, is going to change everyone's lives, not just you, not just me, not just the audience, but future people too.
Yeah, I mean, here's hoping.
Even yours.
Yeah. That's all that I could really expect and hope for, really. That, these podcasts will hopefully, reach someone and maybe inform someone or someone may be going through a similar experience, and it may help them sort through just a bit of what they may be going through, or at the very least just have them feel like they're no longer alone, that there's someone else who actually understands them and is like, it shows the potential of VRChat and the kinds of people that you can meet in this world, and that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to highlight the people that I have found to be interesting, or those who simply want to be on the podcast with me, and just giving them a means of sharing their experiences so that more people will find appreciation in what VRChat can be and the potential that it has, and just to really have meaningful conversations in a world where it's really hard to have those conversations, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. What I want people to take from what I'm saying is always look to empower people.
Absolutely.
Make people feel wanted. Leave a forever lasting impact. Your actions, whether they're good or bad, will leave a lasting impact on someone. Always remember that going forward. If you're having a bad day, making someone else happy
You can say it to the
making
camera.
somebody else happy. I'm sorry. If you're having a bad day, and you go outside and you talk to another person, and you just at least try to make them smile in some kind of way by being goofy or just being yourself, and that can put that happiness is a toxic mindset, in the sense that happiness can spread pretty easily, just as much as hatred can spread pretty easily. All you need to do is just go outside and try to make a good impact on other people. It's very important, because everyone goes through trauma of their own. It doesn't matter how bad that trauma is, if that person's been shot and almost died, or if that person has just some kind of minor social anxiety. People still go through trauma, and that feels like shit at the end of the day. All I can ask is for people to really look not only at other people and realize that you are me and I am you kind of mindset, but also realize that these people, they're just individuals that have mindsets of different kinds and have their own identity that I need to appreciate and respect for who they are.
Yeah, I think that's a very good note to leave off on. Like, very, very positive, uplifting statement to make, Twink. Thank you for that, and for giving the podcast a very fitting end. So, once again, thank you so much for spending time with me tonight, Twink. It's been great getting to know you a little bit more. I feel like we only had that one stream that I had you on before, but I didn't really feel like when I saw you on my friends list, I didn't quite know, like, I didn't remember where I met you. So I'm glad that I invited you that last time, so that I could, see you, out and about. And now you're here and really, you're truly helping me by, being up on this podcast and being a part of it. So I really am grateful for that.
Anytime. I don't care.
Yeah.
It won't bother me much.
Cool. Well, thank you again.
Whatever you need, I'm there. If you need help with editing stuff, I have some expertise. I can teach you stuff if you want to learn and whatnot. I've taken up some classes on it.
Nice. Very, very cool. I will definitely reach out to you if I require any additional assistance. So thank you for that. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to the Sweet Talking Podcast with your host, Nefertiti. And we were joined tonight by TwinklingJoiner. And I'm very, very grateful that you decided to spend some time with us for tonight's podcast, or whenever you may be watching this. So I do want to say that if you enjoyed the podcast, I would definitely encourage you to please do like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I'd love to know your opinions about the podcast, what you liked or disliked about the podcast, what you maybe thought can be improved, what you really enjoyed. And I'd love to know exactly what you have to say. So please don't be shy about that. So thank you once again for tuning in. It truly does mean a lot to me, and I'm really looking forward to the next podcast. So once again, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. That'd be really, really awesome of you. So with that in mind, where can anyone find you anywhere? Twink, can anyone find you on certain platforms or anything?
TikTok? Let me actually pull that up. I'm sorry. I don't remember that by heart. Oh no. My TikTok? Just give me a second. I'm sorry. What's the at? Come on, load. At TwinklingJoiner.
Okay, so it's your name.
YouTube.
It's your name.
Yeah. My YouTube is TwinklingJoiner.
Okay.
And my Twitch is TwinklingJoiner.
Okay, great, wonderful. So they can find you on all the usual platforms at TwinklingJoiner, which makes it a lot easier for everyone, really. So that's really great to know. And of course, if you want to see more of me, you can find me on Twitter at VRNeferty. You can find me there, and also on Twitch at VRCNeferty. So I do stream on Thursdays normally, and if I ever decide to stream more, you'll probably know about it. But you can find me there too, and obviously this will be on YouTube, so if you're already here, just be sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. So with that in mind, I think we've covered all our bases. Thank you so much once again for tuning in, and I hope you will tune in for the next Sweet Talking podcast. Thanks so much.
Spread love.
Yes, spread love and not hate. But I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye for now. Bye.